We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. I'm with the two legends, Supermac and Gibbo. Good evening, chaps.
Hi,
how
Steve.
are you guys?
Evening, John.
Good to see you, and welcome to everybody in the chat and the moderators as well. Hope everybody's fitting well, and plenty to talk about in the next hour with regards to Newcastle United. And John, first of all, a new signing for Newcastle. William Masula, as expected, has signed from Championship side Sheffield United. 21 years of age, Danish-born striker, £10 million deal plus add-ons. The fee is officially undisclosed, so we're relying on the press details for that one. But somebody who comes in known really to Jason Tyndall. He's 6'3", 6'4", good physical profile, got good technical skills. He's a player, I guess, who Newcastle United will be able, and more importantly, Eddie Howe will be able to develop, which of course he's got a good track record since he came to the club of developing players. He's a young striker. He's going to be very enthusiastic. We have seen him briefly at St James's Park, of course. He did come on off the bench in the 5-1 Premier League win over Sheffield United at St James's Park in April. He scored twice in pre-season for them, but he didn't feature against Huddersfield on Friday. That's when the story started to circulate about him potentially coming to Newcastle United. But it's another one through the door. He spent a little bit of time at Derby County, scored 5 times in all competitions at Derby as well. So, you know, he's young. He's somebody who Newcastle will nurture, I guess, and bring in. And I guess the thing it reminds me of, and certainly will remind you chaps of, is previous players, you know, from that country who played for us, some like Benny Arentoft, of course, Benny Christiansen, Frank Pingle. Some remember for the right reasons. Some remember for the right reasons.
I hope he does better.
John Dahl Thomason, Peter Lovenkrands. But yeah, John, we've got a real bargain there, I think, and he's young and up and coming, and most importantly, he'll be happy to sit on the bench and wait for his opportunity, John.
Yeah. I think he fit the identikit picture that I've been banging on about for a long time on this show. Quite simply, that if money's going to be spent, very big money is going to be spent on a centre half and maybe an outside right, the money that was spent on a centre forward was always going to be a young centre forward, because they weren't going to spend top dollar because he was going to be sitting on the bench and sort of only getting on when his act allows him on, and Callum Wilson, of course. But I mean, if he turns out as good as a 21-year-old who's sitting on the right-hand side there, who come to us from Luton at exactly the same age, I'll be more than chuffed, because Malcolm was 21 when he came and become a legend. I hope he doesn't follow the other route and have to leave like Ivan Toney did when he comes from Northampton to make it big. But I'm more than happy to have the lad in. I think it's a good signing. I think he's got potential, and potential is the word we've got to use with this lad. He's got blistering pace. He's got good technique, and that gives Mad Dog and Eddie's something to work on. And he fits ideally the identical picture of the sort of lad we're going to get in. It was necessary because we've been desperately vulnerable at centre forward with Callum's fitness record and nobody beneath Isaac. That worry has been released a little bit. And if we can get Gay through the door at the beginning of next week, then we will be cooking.
Yep. Mal, young striker, as I say, somebody who we can nurture and bring through the ranks, but can also play on the wing, Malcolm, which could, could come in useful. If you're versatile, it is useful.
Yes. I don't know a great deal about this lad, but just listening to your description, the one thing that really hit it for me was you said that he's very quick. And,
yes.
And if you're quick at this level of football, then you've got every single chance. You really have. And it's a question of building your skills up to match that pace and to be able to use those skills at pace. And so, I'm looking forward to seeing this lad. I really am. And we've seen the danger that Gordon's pace has created, and that for me, it's the most dangerous thing. You see defenders panicking like mad. And so it's all very well having a huge amount of skill, but pace, I think, in the modern day game is absolutely vital up front. Absolutely vital.
Yep, certainly is. We heard from him today. Sounds a very, a well-versed young man, and it was good to hear from him. We also had the press conference with Eddie Howe and Bruno Guimaraes, and I think, it was great to finally hear from Bruno. As usual from Eddie, we got absolutely nothing. But he sounded good.
Beautifully said, nothing. It was.
we do never stop talking, though, Steve.
No, he definitely doesn't.
I think the great answer is that sums up Eddie, and I loved it. I loved every minute when he was asked about Gay, which is the one piece of huge news everybody's trying to cling on to. And he was asked, what about Gay? He said, I've got absolutely nothing to tell you about him. And that was the end of that conversation. So short and sweet.
I think
so
from
can we presume that we've called the deal off then?
Well, I think actually reading between the lines, Malcolm, it means the deal's on, because if it went in from, we would have said, hey, we aren't in that market, etc. I think it means the exact opposite. It's on, but he doesn't want to talk about it.
With the amount of media coverage and the there is so much there, John, now online in particular.
Oh yeah,
that, you can very easily upset the other club, and so I think that football clubs are absolutely right in to behave in the way that Eddie Howe is doing, and be very careful of what you're actually saying.
He's 100% right, and of course the trouble is, Malcolm, that if for some unknown reason you don't get him, and you've had Eddie, waxing lyrical about him, you look quite silly. So it is best to wait until somebody's past the post before you bet on him. You don't put your 5 on him until he's already past the post.
Yes.
Bruno Guimaraes was fantastic in what he said today, though, John. It gave us a bit of peace of mind. I guess we could have all done with that kind of interview 6 or 7 weeks ago, though, when the rumours started flying around. But he just gave us a bit of reassurance today, didn't he? That I've never wanted to leave. I'm very happy here, and from my perspective, I'd want to achieve something with this football club, and that's great to hear. It's great to hear from the horse's mouth at long last that he doesn't want to go anywhere.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, I've realised for quite a while that is the way it is. But you need the guy to come out and say it. The guy has come out and said it. that is good news, because our blue chip players have got to be sacrosanct. They've got to be the guys that are immovable. Because if we are to have any sort of future, it is hinged round people like Bruno, Big Joe, Anthony Gordon and Isaac. They are absolutely essential to the Newcastle United cause. They must be held on. Eddie admitted today that because of the financial fair play, which we've all banged on about how much we hated, but while it still exists, we have to sell to be able to buy. Once we get, if we get Gay in, then we'll have to sell to be able to buy our outside right. We all know that, and there are people that we can willingly move on, whether that's Callum Wilson, whether it's Trippier, whether it's Miggy, whether it's Longstaff because of his contract situation. It's who wants them, of course. It's not who we want to go. You've got to have a bid before you can move somebody on. But we will have to move somebody on. We haven't done that in the past, you know. We're very, very poor sellers for any sort of decent money. I mean, we sold Maxi, and then outside of that we had the two panic buys on June the 30th, and that's been it, because the two guys that we sold to Nottingham Forest, Chris Wood and John Joe Shelby, were both made a loss on them. Chris Wood cost 25 million, we got 15 million from. Shelby cost 12 million, we got about 8 million from. So, you know, they don't count in making good money. The money was made on Maxi, Minter, and Anderson. But we've got to make some more money out. We've got to get players out to allow us a bit of wiggle room to bring other players in.
John, I've got a question for you, if you don't mind. And that is, why do I keep seeing a little paragraph here, another little paragraph there, almost every other day, of Gordon and Liverpool still? Why hasn't that situation been put to bed and Liverpool told where to go?
But there's no question. You and I have both banged on the podcast and in print in the Chronicle for that to happen, Malcolm. And we desperately need it to happen. The world we live in, and Steve has talked about this in the past as well, the world we live in is the social media, and they keep fueling things like this, you know, misinformation, trying to take it to the next level. People won't let go of the fact that Liverpool could be, because to the outside world it looks a good fit.
Right. Why doesn't Eddie Howe then sit Gordon down and say, this is what Bruno Guimaraes has just done, and it's cheered everybody up. Now you do it.
Oh, I think that is an excellent idea. I think he has sat them down in terms of not coming out publicly, but in terms of where's your head? Do you want to stay with us, etc., because he's back with them. He's been training this week. He mentioned in passing at his press conference that Anthony Gordon was in a good place. His head wasn't scrambled. He was totally geared to Newcastle United, etc., etc. But but I totally get where you come from, Malcolm. It would have been nice if Anthony Gordon had sat where Guimaraes was sitting and said that, because that is the one that is really worrying people at the moment. And it's on. I mean, I honestly believe that Anthony Gordon will be with Newcastle United at the beginning of September.
I'm sure of it, but I would very much like to hear it from him.
Absolutely correct.
And that would tell me that his heart's in it.
Yes. I mean, we're in this crazy world of social media. Everybody's banging on. Us hacks are the same way. The hacks on Liverpool haven't got much to write about. They've never signed a bloke yet this transfer window, you know, Liverpool. Now, if you haven't signed somebody all summer, what the heck are you going to talk about? Oh, well, we'll keep Anthony Gordon going, like, you know, because it makes sense.
It it really does bring to mind, never let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Oh, yeah, the pot is kept boiling. It's quite a unique time. That didn't happen in the days when you were playing, Malcolm, and I was covering Newcastle every day. That sort of social media has brought a whole new dimension to the world of football, as well as the other world as well. So, that has stoked this situation till I'm sick of it.
And also, John, I think that having transfer windows, there's a build up to a window, and then the end of the window is suddenly coming, and everybody's getting into a panic, and whereas it used to be that you had until about the beginning of April.
Yeah, you had until about 6 weeks before the end of the season when they closed the window, so you couldn't buy yourself out of trouble in the last couple of weeks. But otherwise, you could buy it any time that you liked. Yeah. I have banged on about Gordon, but I'm happy in my belief that he won't go, and I'm getting much more optimistic. If we can get Gay through the door, I think he would be an absolute terrific signing.
I do.
A really, really good signing. And why do I say that? And people have said, well, one or two fans have said to me, well, are we potentially looking to pay over the odds for a defender because he cost north of 60 million? But then I say, look at the facts. Look at last season. Two seasons ago, when we made the Champions League, we let in something like 33 goals in 38 matches to finish fourth top.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful record. Last season, when we didn't finish in a European place at all and didn't get to a domestic cup final, we let in 60-odd goals in 38 games. Now, we scored 85, but if you're letting in 60-odd, you're not going to make Europe. So if this fella can close the door and bolt it at the back, we are in a terrific position. And we need to stop leaking goals. And this fella will honestly, if he arrives, and I'm very hopeful, but you've got to say if right until the last minute. But if he arrives, I think it'll make a difference. We've got to stop leaking goals as easily as we did last season.
Absolutely. And I understand that the Botman is not going to be available until at least Christmas.
Yeah, it's a long-term injury, and so is Lascelles.
Well, heavens above, yes, but if he's not going to be available until Christmas, from there, how long is it going to take him to get match fit? He might get himself training fit, but then having been out for so long, it could take him weeks beyond Christmas to actually get match fit.
Sure.
And I think that he would probably be having to play for the reserves for quite some time.
The interesting thing with Gay as well, he has been playing left side of the centre halves for Crystal Palace and England, and that is a position where long term we have got Botman, Byrne, and Kelly. So you could sort of say, well, are we buying another left-sided centre-half? Well, not quite, because while he's been playing left-sided centre-half for England in the Euros and for Palace, he is actually right-footed. He is right-footed, so he can easily play right-side centre-half. And I noticed some quotes from him that I dug out, that he says that versatility is absolutely important in these days. And he also looks and says, I can play all across the back line. I can play right back and left back. I can play right centre half and left centre half. Now that's terrific, because we haven't got Botman for an age, and Kelly can play left back, but as well as playing left side centre half, which you could do against Southampton, for example, with Shaw and partner Shaw and Gay against Southampton. But when Botman was available, Gay could easily play right centre half alongside Botman in the future. So
and also, John, I think I have the feeling that that Eddie Howe and his staff, that they are becoming aware of Shah's age, and that he's not going to go on forever now.
You've got to. He's 32, 33, and
Yeah.
he's not going to go on forever. He's been wonderful, and he still is wonderful.
Yes.
But you need two people for every position, and it can be Shaw and Gay for right side, and it can be Gay and Botman for left side.
Yes, and the other, yeah.
The interesting thing, and it surprised me, but when I delved into it, the interesting thing is while he's played left-sided centre half, Gay, he's right-footed. Botman's left-footed. Burns left-footed. You know, everybody that's played left side, that was our great thing, wasn't it? That Botman and Burn couldn't really play together as centre halves because they were both left-footed.
Yeah,
Gay's right-footed, but he's progressed so much in the game during his spell as a kid at Chelsea, etc., that his left foot is pretty darn good, but his natural foot is his right foot. So he can't play either side.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I've got a lot of questions coming in, lads, so I'm going to have to try and get through a couple of these. Question from Tom Dixon. He says, question from Malcolm and John. If Newcastle end up signing Mark Gahey and Botman comes back from his injury, who would be benched of the three centre-backs? Well, I think you mentioned that you think probably Shaw eventually will be replaced, but I think Gahey and Botman, lads, will be the natural, as long as they're both fit, they will be the natural.
Benched is the one who's not quite as good as the others.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah, exactly.
You play the two who are in form.
The interesting thing, you're absolutely right, Malcolm, in the natural reaction, Steve, which is what you were saying, is that long-term, and it's only long-term because of Botman's injury, long-term you would think Gay and Botman would be the two centre-halves. What I will find interesting, guys, and here's a thought, Steve, what I would find interesting is what then do we do with Kelly? Because Kelly's come here with a big reputation, and though he's a free transfer, that's just Newcastle getting lucky because he ran down his contract deliberately so he could get a move on a free. But he's interesting because he's a quality left-sided centre half, but also a left back. So it'll be interesting, so perhaps he might long-term challenge Hall for the left back position. And you've got to have cover. You get injuries, Malcolm, and then the problem's gone away because you've got injuries. And we especially get injuries. And Kelly especially gets injuries, bless him. But it'll be interesting to see how we'll look to use Kelly. Left side.
It will be interesting. But at the same time, John, for heaven's sake, we cannot have the injury nonsense that we suffered last season, particularly the number of long-term injuries that we were getting. And I noticed that there was a question before Tom Dixon's with regards to injuries that we need to get less injuries. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this fitness guy that's just started at Newcastle, the effect that he has on the whole of the playing staff running through the season. And I'm expecting to see long-term injuries seriously decline in numbers.
I mean, it's very, very good, isn't it, that we brought him in, that we are addressing the situation, trying to address the situation. That is good. That's good news.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I like this one, guys, and this is from Yvonne. She says, hi, guys. Question, John. If Gordon and Gahey are on board, will wordsmiths be waxing lyrical over Mark and Anthony?
Well, there you are.
It's writing the headlines for you.
Yvonne, I hadn't thought of that one, but don't be surprised if you see it in print pretty damn quick next week after Gay's sign froze. It would be. And by the way, what's good mentioning those two guys? What's good about it is that Anthony Gordon's big mate when he was away with the Euros was Gay.
Yeah, I was going to say to Yvonne, John's not above nicking the odd line or two.
Well, certainly not. I mean, you've got to take your little crumbs wherever you can find them. And
yes,
Yvonne,
indeed.
I might put Yvonne in brackets, credit Yvonne in brackets after I've used it, but there we go.
Good stuff. Question from Darren. He says, question for the lads. If we don't sign anyone else this window, do you think we are still standing still and not going to the next level? So I would imagine that is if we didn't sign anyone else, we didn't sign Gahey included. If Asula was the last person through the door, are Newcastle standing still? Have they gone backwards, or are they in a similar position?
Right. Well, can I come in on this, John? For a start, have Newcastle United accomplished all of the transfer business that they would have liked to have done? And they haven't accomplished it. And the reason that they haven't accomplished it is because they are being held back by these ridiculous FFP rules and what have you. And they have been designed by what the so-called top six and voted in by the Premier Division. And it was really the top six were looking to hold Newcastle back because they're frightened of the wealth that is behind Newcastle right now. And so Newcastle United will not be able to have the successful transfer windows that they would like until these restrictive rules are lifted and that Newcastle are allowed to get on with the business that they would like to accomplish.
I mean, I take the question, if as we stand today, which is with Asula through the door, but no one else, if we're like that, are we standing still or going backwards? Well, we're certainly standing still. We're not going forwards. But I have got to stress that I don't think for one moment that Newcastle won't sign again between now and the end of the window, which is the end of August. The window doesn't end with Southampton. Newcastle will, whether it's Gay, if Newcastle got gazumped over Gay by another club, be that Liverpool or whoever, they would still sign a centre-half before. Newcastle's transfer business is not through. They will sign again. I take completely the question and I understand it. And as things stand today, we aren't up to running order. As things stand today, we would not compete for the Champions League. But I don't think it'll stay the way it is today. I think we will get Gay. But even if we didn't, I think we'd get another centre-half. And then we've got to look to get an outside right. That would be a little bit difficult if we get Gay, because we'll have spent so much on him that we'll have to move somebody out to allow us to free up enough money to get somebody of consequence for an outside right, simply because of financial fair play. And we're running out of time to move people out. And the obvious person to move out would be Miggy or Trippier, because there's a problem with moving Callum out, and Longstaff may be, but we will sign again. There's no question about that. We will sign again before the transfer deadline.
Right, but in answer to the question further, that Newcastle were forced into doing business, and now that's for me that's against natural business. And not just, I'm not talking just football, I'm talking about natural business, that these restrictive rules force Newcastle into something they didn't want to do before any other business happened, in selling the two lads to Nottingham Forest. So rather than one lad to Nottingham Forest and the other to Brighton, yes. And I was really upset about it, but Newcastle, that they really had no option but to get rid of youngsters. and good youngsters at that. And before we had even allowed them to show us what their potential is really going to be. And I was really upset about it. Not upset at Newcastle. I think this FFP rules, I think they are the most diabolical, stupid and restrictive things that I have ever seen brought into football. And I feel confident and sure that they are purely to restrict Newcastle United.
I mean, the situation is that we've got to complete the window under these rules. So if the question is, what are we going to do about it? I think we will sign a centre half, and we will have to move somebody out to sign an outside right. Not just, we could sign an outside right in the way we did a Sule, on the cheap without moving somebody out. But let's move somebody out. There's plenty potential to move somebody out. I mean, I wouldn't cry crocodile tears if Miggy went. I wouldn't cry crocodile tears if Trippier went. I wouldn't if Callum went, although it's difficult to get him out because of his injury. But let's move somebody out and bring some. We're going to have to operate. Newcastle have known the rules for a while, and they've got to operate within those rules. Rotten though they are, and Malcolm's absolutely correct that they are diabolical. But while they're the rules, and Newcastle have got to operate within them. And they've still got wiggle room. I mean, they can afford to pay over 60 million and something well north of that for Gay. So they will do that, but then that takes some of the money out of the pot for the outside right. You've got to look. And from the way the talk was today, because Eddie's wonderful at saying loads of things and saying now, but what I felt was significant reading between the lines was that he said that Trips was open to, not openly looking to go to this, that, and the other. He admitted we'd have to sell to be able to buy under certain circumstances. I think, but he closed the door on Bruno. He tried to close the door on Gordon, and the Isaac door isn't open. It's been non-negotiable for a while. So I think they're open to Trips going. And there's a possibility of Saudi, and there's a possibility of West Ham. And I think if somebody's going to go quickly, I would think the first one likely to go quickly would be Trips.
Okay, we are halfway through the show. Let's have a quick ad break. We will be back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. You can find their website at skipsandbins.com. Contact us, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to United Group Travel. They are the Travel and Tourism Award winners in 2024. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts. You can find them at www.media-arts.co.uk. And don't forget, we are a podcast. You can find us on iTunes or Spotify or other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel grow, then hit the like button, the little thumb underneath the video. Click share and share to your social media, or join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to take out a one-off payment membership, go to nufcmatters.com and hit membership. And for a £25 fee, you get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. You can also put a smartphone over the top of this QR code. It'll take you straight there. And don't forget, we also help the food bank on this channel. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is a website where you can make a virtual donation today. Okay, welcome back to NUFC Matters with me, Supermac and Gibbo. Quick one about Tommy Cassidy, lads. Just to, we didn't really get a chance to pay our respects to Tommy last week. We did it on Friday when the news broke, but you missed out on the Thursday, obviously, doing the show on the Thursday. So yeah, Tommy Cassidy, just a little recollection about him, lads.
He was a highly talented player. He really was. Wonderful ball skills, great close control, and yet he always had his head up, sort of a bit Liam Brady-ish in the way that he always had his head up, always looking just to slot the pass through. And he slotted many a pass through for me, and for which I was most grateful. And not only was he a terrific player on the pitch, Cass, but he was also a really funny lad. His humour was second to none, and he came out with some wonderful one-liners and had everybody in fits. And he was just a joy to be with in the dressing room.
Yeah, well said, Malcolm. He was a terrific guy. I got to know him ever so well. He became a dear friend. I used to knock about with him and Andy's brothers down the Blakelow Social Club for a pint, waxing lyrical on everything Newcastle United. He was a wonderful player for us in 2 Wembley Cup finals, the Anglo-Italian Cup, 2 Texaco Cups. But above all, he became a fan out of that. And right till the end, he was a Newcastle United fan. Waspish sense of humour. He was my manager at Gateshead for a while. Did a terrific job for me. He had just managed in Cyprus and took his club in Cyprus into Europe with Terry McDermott. They'd won the title. He was his star player. And Tommy was just... a terrific sense of humor, quality player, never the fastest. His quickness was in his mind. It wasn't in his legs. His legs were slow, his mind was quick, and it turned him into a super player. I always said that for somebody that wasn't quick on the pitch, to give him a man marking job on George Best, which is what the Northern Ireland national squad did. He was a roommate of George Best. He roomed with George Best on all the internationals. And I said, if ever there was a man marking job that couldn't be done on the field or off the field, it was marking George Best. And I think poor old Tommy then to go to the toilet in the hotel room, because when he come back,
he was gone.
He was gone, and Tommy had to try to find him somewhere. But he was quite. I mean, above all, I think of him as a journalist. I think of reporting on him in 2 Wembley finals. As a chairman of a football club, I think about him being my manager. But above all, I think about him as a friend.
Yeah.
Because that was what he was to me above anything. Tommy Cassidy was a friend.
And John, he had such a quick wit about him. He was such a joy to be with, to be in the company of. But the Alzheimer's that got a grip, how cruel is that? It killed a brilliant mind, brilliant brain.
Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right, Marlon. It is a terrible thing, and it brings tears to my eyes every time I think of Alzheimer's with Tommy. And when I think of other Newcastle United players in exactly the same position, John Tudor, bless him, is going through that situation.
Yes.
John McNamee, bless him, is going through that situation. Terry McDermott, I think, is in early stages. It is awful. And the last time I physically saw Tommy was when I talked at and you've talked many a time, Malcolm, at the Memory Club in
Yes.
the Memory Cafe in Newcastle United, and Tommy was in the audience with Rosemary, his wife, sort of listening to the tales.
Who's recently died as well, bless her.
Yes. Oh, I mean, you know, it gets to the stage where it becomes a relief. The release becomes a relief because you know so much of and when you think how vibrant Tommy was and what a good player he was and the fame that he had in the Northeast and beyond, and in Belfast where he was loved, being part of their World Cup squad that beat in '82 beats Spain when we're the hosts out there. Tommy played in that game. He's had a wonderful, wonderful career that will stand up against anybody's at any time. And it was a privilege to work with him when he played for Newcastle, a privilege to employ him when he was at Gateshead, but a privilege above all else to be his friend. And those memories will never die, never die.
It certainly was. Yes, it was a privilege. Yeah.
And the money that we raised at the end of season due, of course, for Dementia Matters, Tommy spent a little bit of time going up to the Brunswick Centre as well. So, you know, a worthwhile cause that we raised a lot of money for and will continue to do so. Okay, just want to talk a little bit about the Stack opening up, John. Of course, across from the ground. It's been a long time coming, and Newcastle United have opened it today. Darren Eales and Peter Silverstone up there to welcome the fans in. Lots of videos on social media flying around that people can see, and just, you know, great to see it opening just before the Cellar Cup. Looks great. It will certainly raise money for Newcastle United, but also gives Newcastle fans another option to use, not just on a match day, but through 365 days a year. It's a really big adventure, I guess, for Newcastle. Another tick in the box from the owners that we have now, John.
Oh, a massive tick, a massive plus. It's like a fan zone, isn't it? But as you say, every day of the year, but its situation right on the top of St. James's Park is absolutely perfect. It's vibrant. It's part of the modern situation where clubs develop so rapidly now. We stopped developing for a decade and a half, but we're now playing catch up, and we're getting there. And well done everybody at NUFC that have worked behind the scenes to make this happen and to encourage it to happen. You know, the Stack used to be further off down in town, and it was a loss when that sort of disappeared from the scene. And it's terrific that it's opened in time for the first weekend pre-season with Newcastle United playing, and of course Southampton home on the Saturday. Perfect. Terrific, thrilled to bits, right on time. Well done to everybody concerned, and a big tick in favour of NUFC.
Yeah, Malcolm, it's just, it's not something that we are short of in the Northeast pubs, certainly not in the city centre, but this is a little bit different. It's going to have entertainment on. It's going to have, food venues, in there, plenty of food venues, lots of choice. And and it's central to the ground. People will use it pre-match, post-match, and of course, throughout the year. And it's making revenue for Newcastle.
Yeah, excellent. I always feel that I would encourage the odd player to go along. Have it arranged for a player just to go along for half an hour or an hour every now and again, and just mingle with supporters, so that that I think shows that support is appreciated. The supporters are appreciated. And are an important part of the club, and it's the players that can make them feel that way.
Yeah, they are going to be doing stuff with ex professionals, I believe. I think they're working hand in hand with the club, so keep an eye on their Facebook page and across the club's social media. I think you'll find that they will be doing stuff at the Stack on a regular match basis. And another development at the club, John, affects you and Mal when you're in the press box and the press conference today. It's had a little bit of a refurb, John, and you've got some nice posh seats by the look of it. You've got some microphones on the desk and things. The press all seem to like it, John.
Well, yes. I mean, it's wonderful that they've got round to thinking about us, and good old Newcastle United and the new regime. There's a double tick. The interesting thing, looking at that there for the ranking for the ordinary punter, is when they have in the past put on YouTube the Newcastle United press conference with Eddie, and you've listened to what Eddie's got to say. The crazy thing is that you sat there with absolute silence when the question was asked, because there was no microphones on the press tables. So the questions were asked, and then you've suddenly got Eddie answering a question, and you've got no idea what the question was. And he'd go, oh, yes, he would say, so on. And he'd say, but what was the question? All of a sudden, they've addressed that, and they've got microphones on the table so that when the press man asks the question, you can actually hear the question if you're watching on YouTube, and then you pick up Eddie's answer. But, last season, you were getting Eddie's answer, and you were thinking, what was the question? So that is improved. That is good. It looks good. And what I'm hoping for is that we'll see that in full flow a week on Saturday when Newcastle have got 3 points against Southampton, and Eddie's telling us how he did it. That'll be terrific. That's what I'm looking forward to.
John, is it a scramble for seats and mics?
Oh, I think it'll be enough.
You're not getting an allocated seat, are you?
Oh, I think it'll just be a scramble. Mind, it doesn't mean because you've got a seat with a mic, you'll be allowed a question, but that's a different thing.
Yes. Yeah, I know one or two whose mics will be permanently switched off.
We also have today got into the 21st century with an app. So anyone who has a smartphone can actually download the app onto their phone. And I've got to be honest, Gary V's mentioned it there. He says anyone with a smartphone, Android or Apple, the new club app was launched today. It looks quite slick. I've had a quick mooch around it myself today, and I would agree, Gary, it is quite slick. It does what it says on the tin. So now you can get news from Newcastle United direct to your phone if you have a smartphone. So that's great. It won't affect Gibbo. He's never had a mobile phone.
Will this sort of send out news shots and what have you?
Yeah, I can't really do anything on this podcast to show you what it looks like at the moment anyway. But
no,
it's very easy to download. You just go to wherever you would download an app onto your phone, and yeah, it's got everything you need. The menu is very easy. It's quite smooth.
Right. So sorry, Steve, but so for example, if they were to sign a player, will they notify everybody who's got the app? They'll just
I mean, basically, it's got
the
news.
Message out. We have just signed so and so from whatever.
It's just into that avenue to make sure that you get the news. There's got it's got all the teams info on. It's got all the info you need about St James's Park, how you contact the club directly, how you contact the foundation, who the partners are. Tickets, you can probably, I'm just clicking on tickets now. You can buy tickets on there. You can buy membership on there. It's got ticket information, match day hospitality. It's got a support section if anybody needs support. So yeah, listen, it ticks all the boxes. It does everything it has. We're quite a few years behind clubs who've had this for years. So you know what? For me, I do think it's just another step in the right direction. So again, well done.
Great stuff.
Well done to Newcastle for doing that. Okay, we have had lots of questions come in. We won't get through all of them, unfortunately. We will ask Sutty's question, Sutty79. He says, what's your thoughts on the young lad, Sanusi? He says, I was impressed when he came on during pre-season. I feel optimistic about this one going forward. Yeah, he looks the part, John, is what I would say. I mean, it's very difficult to judge people when you're playing pre-season friendlies, because, teams are literally just blowing the cobwebs out. But Sanusi has seemed to hit the ground running, if you like.
Yeah, I think yes, what you said's perfectly true. It is very difficult to judge a person's immediate standing for the first team from pre-season friendlies because you're going through the most. How many times have we in the past seen somebody rip up the pre-season friendlies and then when the seasons start to disappear down the hole? I'm not talking about this young boy. I'm talking about more senior players. The good thing with this boy is, and the one thing you can take away from pre-season appearances by youngsters is that if you can see a level of technical ability and a level of vision in the guy's mind, and this guy has got the tricks, and I use the word tricks as a compliment, not not just the circus tricks, but ones that are effective on the football field. He has got all the ability. And as I've said before, in this Newcastle are building up very, very quickly. While we've all been concentrating on the first team and saying, when are they going to splash the cash with somebody like Gay, when are we going to get an outside Wright, etc., and concentrated on that because that's our immediate present. We're looking to the future. Hugely, we've signed about 11 age group players from the age of the under 15s right up to the under 21s because we were so derelict of quality in those age groups that we've been bringing in the best youngsters from all over England and Ireland. And that has been terrific to see. And this kid fits into that totally. And he looks one of the bright ones because he's got all the natural ability we look for and we treasure at Newcastle United because we love natural ability. We love natural ability, we love pace, we love courage if it's a defender, and we love goals. And this kid fits into that picture. And I think he will be one for the future. I don't mean that he's necessarily going to make the bench against Southampton if everybody's available in terms of fitness, and he's got a little fitness problem at the moment, but just a knock, nothing long term, just a knock. But yes, he's got a future, and it's lovely to see kids with futures, and I think the future looks bright. We're also wanting the present to look bright as well, and that's something we're doing something about with Azula and with Gay.
Yeah, I would agree. We'll be talking a lot of comments, people asking us about the Man United situation. We'll be discussing that tomorrow night, guys, on the Amigos. A lot more time on a 2-hour show, and I know Neil and Steve really want to get their teeth into that, so I'm not going to drag that out tonight. Mal, I mean, look, it's great when you have somebody like Sanusi coming through. Obviously, a lot of is expected of Harrison as well, potentially coming through, and it's great to see youngsters who are mixing with the first team group, being part of the squad, if you like. We've got Lewis Miley to come back. Jamie Miley's been having a run out pre-season. He's been quoted as saying he feels like going out on loan might be the best option for him. But we've got youngsters there, and of course, the incoming sporting director Mitchell has said that it is his intention to have youngsters come through every year. So from our perspective, that's the game plan by Newcastle, and again, that's positive because we know all of them won't make it, Mal. Some of them will be probably like Elliot Anderson or Minte, who you take on. They don't get a game for the first team, or they do get a game for the first team. They make an impression, but they get sold on to help your PSR, or they end up becoming a household name who Newcastle United can play in the first team. You just never know.
Well, yes, absolutely, and I think it's always great for those kids to know that there is a manager who, if you're good enough as a youngster, he will take that chance on you. And there are many clubs, many managers who don't look to bring kids in. Look at Man City. They've got two squads of seniors, but you never see a kid being given a chance there, and that applies to a lot of other clubs. At Newcastle United, there are kids coming through Livramento for one, and to the point where we're actually talking of saying, well, Trippier can maybe move on now. And that's all happened just in during last season. Great stuff. It's absolutely fabulous, and as and the kids at Newcastle United, it does them the absolute world of good. It really does give them such a fillip to really want to go and show what they're capable of doing in front of their coaches, who are then going to be recommending to the manager certain names.
Yep. Just want to congratulate Derek Wright, who has his book out. I will be getting Derek.
Oh,
Wright
does he?
Yeah, Derek has brought a book out which is available now, in all good bookshops and across all downloadable places such as Amazon. It's called Derek Wright: My Story in Black and White: 4 Decades Fixing the Mags. And Derek will be on the show, The Professionals, on Sunday. We're going to give him a chance to pop on and have a chat and promote his book. So looking forward to having him on the show. He passes on his best to you guys, though, and I'm sure.
He is one of life's lovely, lovely gentlemen. He really is. And a seriously good physio. And he started at Fulham as a physio. I took him from Sheffield University, where he had just got a degree in physio.
Yeah.
And this was on the recommendation of Fred Street at Arsenal. And he, I talked to him on the phone, and he just rushed to the station, got on a train, bombed down, and within about 3 hours was in my office. And I was desperately short of a physio who had sort of walked out and gone to another club, and he just got to work there and then, and he's been doing it ever since, and he is one of life's great guys, but also a great pro, real great professional who took a real joy in working with players. And of course, really, other than his stint at university, he had known nothing other in his adult life than football, because he'd been an apprentice at Arsenal. They didn't sign him at the end of that apprenticeship, but he went to York and played for them and got an horrendous injury and was forced to retire. And that's when he went to Sheffield University, and I was desperately short, and he had just passed his degree and got the results, and he came and worked for me. And if ever I was a bit short in the reserves, he'd turn out. And so if somebody went down injured, the coach had to run on with his bag of goodies and give it to Derek, bless him. And so it was player treating player. He was a lovely lad, great lad to work with, and I wish him well with the book. It'll be a very interesting one, very interesting indeed. Yeah.
Yep. Well, we've got Derek on the show on Sunday, so looking forward to giving him a bit of promotion.
Have you?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
We've only got a couple of minutes left, and as always, I always have a week off before the season starts. I need to recharge my batteries, so there won't be any live shows next week. So Malcolm and Gibbo is having a week off. So it means that we have to do our predictions for the Southampton game. So this is our first prediction of the season. Newcastle at home to Southampton. Nothing really to gauge it on. Can't judge the team on friendlies. So, John, you have the dubious honour of being the first person on NUFC Matters to talk predictions. So what is your thoughts going into that first game at home, and what is your prediction, John?
Newcastle will win. That's first and foremost. That's my prediction, and that's the way it's got to be and will be. Yes, we don't know at this particular stage We don't know whether there's going to be other signings through the door at the beginning of next week that can affect the team, like Gay, like an outside chance or an outside right. We know that Asula will be able to be on the bench. We don't know fitness-wise that Willock will be available and Kelly. Both of those have been sparsely used so far prior to this weekend in pre-season, and Kelly's got injury history where he was at Bournemouth. Willock is on the missing persons list for a year, but is so vital to us because he's a quality player. Will Willock be available? Will Kelly be available? Gordon will be. Trippier will be if he's still here.
And of course, Tonali, John.
Tonali won't be because he can't.
Not for Southampton, but
this is Southampton. He can't start till the Spurs game.
Yes.
He's not available in the Spurs game, so he won't be.
Right.
But regardless of the team we put out, I will expect Newcastle to beat Southampton. The newly promoted, the backup here, they've got Adam Armstrong, they've played up here, who scores a pile of goals whenever he's in the Championship, and not quite a pile of goals whenever he's in the Premier League.
Yeah.
That might change. I wish him well after the opening day, but not for the opening day. Bottom line is, whatever team we put out, unless there was catastrophic injuries this weekend, and heaven forbid, in a friendly there could be, I think we will start with a win. And we've got a good start to the season in terms of the fixture list being kind. We've got to get off on the right foot.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want a season like last season, because last season we were seventh out of Europe, where we didn't make a cup final, etc., etc. But I tell you what, we do want from last season. We want the same start as we had last season. We won 5-1 at St James's Park on the opening day of last season, and against Aston Villa, who are slightly better than Southampton. So we will win against Southampton, and we will win relatively convincingly. 3-1 if we haven't got Gay, 3-0 if we have got Gay.
And John, where are we going to John, give us your prediction. Is this the season we're going to win something? And where do you think we'll finish in the Premier League?
Both great questions. As we stand now, we don't make the Champions League and we don't make a domestic cup final. But the season the transfer window isn't finished. If we get Gay and we have a pop at an outside right, we will make Europe, be it the Champions League or from 5th and 6th position, but we will make Europe. And if God decides to give us some luck in the draw in the FA Cup and the League Cup, we can easily end our wait. And while I am desperate for us to make the Champions League, I am also desperate, because I'm an old fogey, for us to win it's some silverware, because I'm sick to death of the fact that it's 1969 and domestically it's 1955, for goodness sake. There's nobody from the 55 side still alive today. The last time we won a domestic trophy. So if we make the right signings, yes, we can make the Champions League and or a domestic trophy. If we make no signings, no. But I'll emphasize again, we won't make no signings. We will make signings, and we will win on the opening day. Let's be positive. Let's go into a new season with all guns blazing. Let's keep the faith. Let's go for everything. Because famous phrase, shy Ben's getting out.
Before I go to Malcolm, I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching on Twitter, especially if you are watching on Twitter. Move on to YouTube at the end of the show, search NUFC Matters and subscribe. It is free. We do 7 shows a week. Even when I'm off, we've got a load of pre-recorded shows to play next week, so you will be able to see them. Just so you know, Mal, before I ask you, I've gone next week for Newcastle to win 5-0 against Southampton on the opening game of the season. And I've also taken Newcastle to win the treble at the bookies. I have taken Newcastle at treble. I got 1,500 to 1, Malcolm. 1,500 to 1. I've put £1 on it, so that means I'll be £1,501 richer come May when we win the treble. And I've also taken Alexander Isak to finish top goal scorer of the Premier League. I put £1 on that, Mal. I got 14 to 1 for that. So add that to me £1,501 that I'm going to get back, plus me £15. I'll have £1,516 in May, and I'll take you all out for a meal, lads.
Well, sounds good to me.
That's very good. If I may say, Bramal, before you jump in, that is a terrific gesture from you. But I wish you would stop sitting on the fence, mate. We've got to have opinions in this game. It's no good sitting on the fence. And you've done that far too often, and you've done it again now.
Okay, Mal. Can you beat my predictions?
Well, certainly, I think we're going to win. I should be very disappointed if we concede. I'm going to take us to win by a minimum of 2-0, and I can see us getting quite a hatful of goals this season. I think it's going to be a very exciting one, hugely exciting, in fact. So this would just be the start. Our midfield is so strong, and they will be a joy to play in front of. So I am getting very excited about the start of this, and I'm going to be sat there watching the Southampton game, and I'm expecting to see us give them a bit of a walloping. We'll outplay them of that, I'm sure.
Great stuff, as always. Enjoy your week off, lads. Get ready to go. We'll have a match to talk about and another prediction to make on the next show. But for now, Gibbo and Supermac, thanks very much for your time. Take care and see you when I'm back. Take care, lads.
All right. Have a good trip, Steve.
Cheers, my friends.